Today I'm going to show you how to create a function that traces out with a point and an input box in order to enter that function. So I just loaded up a GeoGebra window. This is what you should get when you open it up. So the first thing I'm going to do is just type in a function. Doesn't matter what it is. So I just typed in x squared. And this is just going to act as a placeholder. And you'll see why in just a little bit. So you can type in x cubed, doesn't really matter. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in the input box, which is on the slider tool. Go down to input box, click it, and you click anywhere on the screen. So the caption, this is what the box is going to ask you. So I'm going to type in f of x is equal to, and then a blank. Now where it says link, well, I only have one choice, but what this does is it will change the value of whatever it's linked to. So in this case, I'm going to link it to f of x. So I hit OK. Now it puts this box right here. Now if you click inside of it and say I just make this x, it'll actually change the function over here. So say now I have x cubed, now I have x cubed, and so on. So I'm going to leave it as x squared for now. But I don't want all this extra space. So if you go onto it and you right click it and go into object properties, you're actually going to go all the way over to style, and then box length is asking how much space it has. So I usually make it 3 or 4, so we'll do 3 and then hit enter. So you can see that made it much shorter, maybe a little too short, so I'll make it 5 in case you want room to enter other things. So you exit out of that, now you have an input box. Now you can't just drag the input box, you can drag it by right clicking it and moving it, or being on the input box tool and then moving it. Sometimes, yeah, it doesn't work for mine, works for some computers. So now I want a point that'll be on this function. So before I do that, I need a variable. And to create a variable, you make a slider. So you go to slider and click anywhere on the screen. And we'll just make it go from -5 to 5 with an increment of 0.1. And so that's just the default slider that it gives you. So now in here I'm going to make my point a comma f of a, or x comma y. But my x values are a and my y values are a evaluated at f. So there you go, you hit enter, and now you see when you move the slider how you move on that. So make sure it's important whenever you want to move around in GeoGebra to always go back to this move tool. So now I'm actually going to click on A right here, my point. I'm going to right click it and put the trace on. And because we all like colors, you're going to go into this little graphics thing right here, click on the triangle, and you can make it any color you like. I'm going to make mine blue. You can also change the size or shape of your circle or whatever you want it to be. And I'm going to make mine a little larger, so you can make it an X, you can make it a open circle. It's up to you. Traditionally we just use the circle. Okay, so now we're pretty much done. So we're just going to turn off this F, and then we're going to animate it. So right click, animate, and there you go. It's a traced out function. Now if you want to change your function, you do what I call shaking the screen. It's you just click on the screen and move it around a little bit. So now I can change this to x squared plus 2, and I can see how that changed the graph. You can see how it shifted up, or you can get a little crazier and you can maybe do 3 times x minus 2 squared plus 3. So you see how that doesn't fit. So what you maybe want to do is go back into the object properties and make that box actually longer, maybe 10, just so you can guarantee you can see the whole thing. Now if we do this, we can really see how that changed the graph. See how it become much narrower and shifted. So we can't see the whole graph, so we're going to zoom out a little bit. And I zoom out by scrolling on my mouse. You can also use the scroll tool here, or the zoom out tool here. So there's our parabola, and you can see it's very heavy dependent on these values over here. Now there's one more thing I want to show you is that this is kind of hard for students to read and understand or even see. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a text box. I'm going to put right here, and if you just type in f of x equals, and then you go ahead and click this guy. So it just puts f, but it puts your whole function right here. So if you hit OK, it'll appear right here. So it's still a little small. You can use these options here. We're going to use bold, and I'm going to make this actually large. So it makes it very easy to see what your functions are, and as you change them in your input box, you can see them change right there. So it makes it a little easier for your students to see, and you can see the function change yet again. And that's it. That's all there is to it.